right, some of President Obama's critics are wondering when we'll hear him speak out on the murder of two New York City police officers. The president has issued a statement on the murder of those two officers, but otherwise, he's pretty much stayed out of the spotlight on this one. He's on vacation in Hawaii. David Webb is a radio talk show host and a columnist for The Hill and a Fox News contributor. And Bernard Whitman is a former Bill Clinton pollster and the president of Whitman Insight Strategies. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me here.
Good morning, Molly.
You know, a bit of a situation here. There are so many people weighing in on this from both sides of the political spectrum, back and forth. Should the president be weighing in? Should he step up on this? Should he say something? Bernard?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question the president should talk about this. This has an opportunity for him to speak out on the scourge of guns, senseless violence, hatred, and overheated political rhetoric. And I think the president could come out and make a very clear, unequivocal, calm, short statement saying both sides need to stand back. We need to turn down the heat on this. We need to turn down the rhetoric on this. We need to let America and these families in particular mourn the loss of these two very brave officers. We can have serious and real disagreements on how best to fight violence and how best to reform the police, but political barbs at this time are just not appropriate.
David, is now the time for the president to speak on this?
Well, let's see. Andrew Tamarisi, 214 days. Ferguson grand jury verdict, 15 minutes. Trayvon Martin, his statement even before the grand jury verdict in the Saturday radio address where he talked about you shouldn't be killed for wearing a hoodie. The president has waited and has gone into these issues, even in Boston with Professor Gates, without having all the facts. So now it really doesn't matter much, I got to tell you, to the frontline officers that I talk to, whether the president speaks or not, because they don't trust him. You know, Bernard likes to shift to guns and he likes to shift the argument. But what we have here is an environment problem. We have an environment problem with the president's right-hand man on race, Al Sharpton, Bill de Blasio's right-hand man on race, Al Sharpton, who is basically someone who has helped foster an environment of hatred towards police. These two officers killed were not black and white as the issue. The murderer was black. The assassin was black. The officers were Hispanic and Asian in this case. So it's beyond race, but they use race and use hatred of police. And it's not just New York. It's all over this country. I've been tracking this story since 20 minutes after it happened with guys who were there, with guys who are rolling on this, with this environment. It is all cops. The threats are coming right now as we speak.
David, you bring up an interesting point. We all recall a couple of years ago when the incident in Cambridge, the president said that the police had acted stupidly, acknowowledging that not all the facts were in yet at that point in time.
Didn't have all the facts.
So what can he say here and now? I mean, it's a difficult spot. What can he say? What should he be saying when there's so much vitriol and people are being criticized for stepping forward and really saying anything?
I think what he should say is we need to stand back. We need to calm down. We need to back up. The fact that a senseless, crazed, psychotic murdered two police officers stands for itself. This wasn't an act that was generated by the political rhetoric around
yes, it was. When you go through social media, I have scrubbed his Instagram and his Facebook.
Come on and say effectively that the mayor and the president have blood on their hands, as Patrick Lynch said. That is completely inappropriate and is wrong. We need to tone down the rhetoric on that side. We need to tone down the rhetoric on the left about being anti-police. This is, you know, the one thing that really bothers me in this whole debate is this whole idea of Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter. All lives matter. You know, that's what the president
Molly, this can't stand, because Bernard's doing the very same thing to try and deflect this. So let's deal with it for what it is. We have an issue that has been an environment that's been created. We have a political operation by the left. You can't say that de Blasio doesn't have responsibility, or Eric Holder, or the Community Relations Service in Ferguson, or Al Sharpton. They foster this environment. And this was not some psychotic. I've scrubbed his Instagram and his Facebook, as did the officers that are working this case. And we have gone through it. He referenced Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Al Sharpton. He waded into all of this. Let me finish. Let me finish. He also did this, as did many of the other threats, literally hundreds of threats that I have gone through since Sunday. This is a problem, and you cannot deflect this to some psychotic. This is a criminal. This is someone who has been spurred on by the race and grievance industry.
But can the president diffuse this situation?
The question is, can he be trusted? The question here is about that broken trust between de Blasio and the police, and that broken trust between the president and the nation, who obviously sees that a president weighs in on what supports his base. And this, by the way, to my friends on the right, this is a public safety issue. But unfortunately, the leftist progressive policies have put us where we are because they use race, they use this industry, and they go out and they divide Americans.
Bernard, a quick response.
David, there is broken trust on both sides.
There is broken trust from the president on this and from Al Sharpton.
The president or the mayor are somehow responsible for the senseless act
they
of
violence
help foster
the
individual
violence.
Who shot his girlfriend, then called the girlfriend's mother to
Is he a
apologize.
psychotic?
He's obviously crazy.
Have you looked at
dead.
Have you looked at his social media?
You can tell.
No, you haven't, Bernard,
by his actions,
because you
David,
like
by
to
his
deflect.
actions, you can tell that he's psychotic. And the fact that you're blaming the president or the mayor for this is just reprehensible.
They help foster this environment. That is a fact by their actions.
So many people saying
so
much on this, and we will wait to see if the president will step forward and actually perhaps say something on camera from his vacation. We don't know. We'll wait and see. Bernard Whitman, David Webb, thanks so much for joining me here today. Appreciate it.
Molly.
Spirited debate. Thank you, Molly.